Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome all of you on behalf of the EDB for the 35th webinar of EDB Weekly Webinar Series. So, our objective, EDB's objective in organizing this webinar is to create awareness among Sri Lankan exporters, potential exporters, newcomers on one of the important aspect of international trade. So today we have selected another important aspect of international trade, that is logistics. In any company, it is very important to deliver your products, whether it is international to the international market or to the local market. You have to deliver your goods on time and in good condition. So logistics play a major role in helping you to make it a reality. So logistics plays a major role in your company success. So we have selected a webinar topic as understanding end-to-end logistics journey of the export market. As you know, as usual, we did for all other webinars, there will be two parts for this webinar. Firstly, our resource person will deliver a presentation. Maybe she will take about 45 minutes. Then we can ask any questions to clarify matters of the presentation. Maybe we will have about 10-15 minutes for that. To ask any question, you have to use the Q&A option available in the Zoom application. You can type and send depending on the time. Let's try to get all the clarification from our resource person. So now it is my present task is to introduce our resource person, Ms. Randima Krishnaratnam. She currently works as the country sales manager of Maersk in Sri Lanka. She worked at Maersk from 2018 and has been driving the Maersk integrated strategy in Sri Lanka and also enabled placement of Sri Lanka as a key logistic hub for Maersk globally. Prior to joining the Maersk company, Randima was employed with Unilever Ceylon, Sri Lanka for 12 years, handling multiple roles across supply chain and customer service. She joined as the management trainee of this organization. And also she holds a BSc degree in genetics from University of Bangalore and an MBA from Postgraduate Institute of Management, that is PIM. And she is currently reading for PhD. With that introduction, I invite Ms. Randima Krishnaratnam, Country Sales Manager for Maersk in Sri Lanka, to deliver this session. Over to you, Randima.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Anoma, and of course the Export Development Board. I think firstly, it's a very great initiative that you are reaching out to the exporters of this country, especially at a time when the exports are critical for our country. So it's very heartening to see an organization such as the EDB taking this initiative. So I'll actually move on to, because one of the first things that comes when we talk about exports is we always think about the logistics, because it's not confined to the perimeter of the country or the domestic market. Yeah. So let me actually share with you a brief presentation. Of course, I'll just go through it and for about 40 to 45 minutes, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions. I think when we talk about exports in this country, the largest contribution comes obviously from garments and apparels. So we are known as one of the key apparel manufacturers in the world. Products that's from Sri Lanka. I think recently some of you would have seen the either social media posts or the news items that came, where at like a global event such as the final of the Australian Open, there were the Sri Lankan manufactured exports, which was won by both players who played in the final. So that's, I mean, a significant achievement for a country like us, that our products are going global. So what is really, in terms of taking these products global, one of the key concerns or the key areas where many exporters struggle is the logistics. And I personally know, in many occasions, we have many, let me say, traders or manufacturers who don't really export because of the fear of logistics, the fear that they might not be able to actually get their product out in the global marketplace, and therefore they just confine them into Sri Lanka. So what are really these challenges that one will face when they go to the global market? Just to put in perspective, if we have to send a shipment, say from Kandy to Rotterdam, yeah, it will basically involve about 30 actors or 30 different institutions or organizations involved in it. And there will be more than 100 people, be it from the manufacturing to obtaining various licenses, to various regulatory authorities, be it SLPA, be it, I mean, Sri Lanka Customs, or then the specific regulatory licenses. And then in Rotterdam, you might have some quality requirements that needs to be done, some labeling requirements that needs to be done. So then the exporter or the manufacturer has to adhere to all of that. So in the process, it involves about 100 people more. And of course, in terms of the information exchanges, the updates that has to be given, be it physical documentation or electronic documentation, there will be around 200 plus information exchanges. And there is, of course, the financial aspect, and the banks also involved in it. Now, a very simple task of sending a shipment from just one place to the other, this is the complexity that's involved behind it, and this is the complexity that genuinely puts many manufacturers kind of away from the whole scenario of exporting. Now, does it have to always be this way? And let's just understand why does it have to be this way, and is there any way we could actually mitigate it and make life much easier, make trade much easier for all of you. So the main thing we know today, we live in an extremely uncertain global environment. There's so much of changes happening in the global political scenario. There are so much of changes happening in society. You will suddenly see unrest. Like in the recent past, there was a coup in Myanmar, and suddenly there were so many implications to the exporters and to the imports that was coming into that country. And in certain countries, certain governments might run restricting policies. Sometimes, of course, some governments might promote imports and exports. Some governments will promote trade more than others, whereas some other governments might run restricting actions. So all of this can just happen without any prior notice. Like no one knew that a coup would happen in Myanmar, right? So as such, there are so much of uncertain events that happens. Then there will be natural calamities that happens. There can be roads that suddenly gets inundated because a dam breaks down. There can be cyclones, like we've seen a certain situation right now in Texas. And of course, all of us, I think, in the last 13 to 14 months, we've seen the biggest uncertainty the world probably has ever seen, or at least in our lifetimes, the biggest uncertainty, which is COVID-19. Now, these are not situations any business is geared up to, or any business is able to comprehend at any single time. So one of the realities today we have to live with is that there will be uncertainties in business. What we'll also have to understand is that we shouldn't let these uncertainties really put off the journey in exports. Moving on from the uncertainties, the other concern with exports today is managing the complexities. I mean, of course, if you see something that's very prominent today is the whole vaccination that is around COVID-19. Now, if you take in a global scale, it is an extremely cumbersome process to manage. Just imagine a country like India, where you have 1.3 billion people. How do you vaccine such a population? How many people to reach out to? How many localities to reach out to? How would you manage that logistics of vaccines? How do you ensure it's at the proper temperature, even at the most further corner in India? So that is in a domestic level, given that India produces large amount of the global vaccines in any case. However, when it comes to the exports, what we see is for different countries, you might require different documentation. Different countries will require different labeling. Take, for example, there will be some countries which will ask if it's a food-based product, which ask you to send your date coding as DDMMYY, right? And there will be some countries which say they need the year as DDMMYYYY. So 4 Y's coming there. Or some might need the month coming ahead. So there can be even this type of complexities. And then of course the documentation, there will be like, be it customs, be it any other regulatory body. Even when you export out of Sri Lanka, there can be a lot of documentation that is involved basis the commodity. There is also some of the customs and EDB programs which today itself that is being run to ease out these documentation complications and make it less challenging. Then of course we also have the commodity based clearances. If you see for tea, you have a tea board clearance. Then for coconuts, you do have another clearance to obtain. And then in certain countries, there is a quality requirement. For example, sometimes countries such as Australia and New Zealand require the containers or the cargo to be fumigated. So there is a fumigation license that has to be taken before you send the goods. Then of course, there is always a challenge. One of the biggest challenges in logistics is storage. Depending on whether you are storing food items, whether you are storing garments, how long it can be stored to, there has to be the right temperature. You have to ensure it is you get enough air for the commodity. You have to ensure that it's in a secure place. And of course, nowadays, some of the buyers in many countries are also very mindful of all the sustainability and ethical implications of it. There are some global customers, when you are a supplier for such customers, for example, a customer such as IKEA, there might be already sellers to IKEA logged into this forum as well. But a customer such as IKEA, the amount of detail they require to see that all the suppliers who are, who they source from, go through a comprehensive clearance process, which involves even the labor. They go to the level of what is paid on to the laborers in terms of EPF, ETF. Then on the fleet that is used for transportation, the vehicles have to be of a certain age or lesser than a certain age period. And then now we do have a lot of customers who would prefer if the mode of transportation is from hybrid transportation. And even if you see in the whole container logistics or the ocean shipping scenario, you have IMO regulations where you see all the shipping companies using low sulfur fuel. Then of course, not forgetting one of the facts which I've also seen a lot of manufacturers take as a deterrent for exports is the financial and legal implications. I also understand there's been detailed studies done on this, and in Sri Lanka, one of the biggest deterrents is the fear of sharing details with a bank or going through that financial procedures, or actually or having access to finance. So that is one of the biggest implications that stops exports in Sri Lanka. Then of course, when you look at exports, sometimes today one of the things a buyer might ask is a door delivery. And if you take a country such as many countries in West Africa, for example, like you cannot have container transports on certain transportation on certain roads because they have bridges, and those bridges you cannot clear vehicles which carry containers. So there are such a complicated transport situations throughout the world. There will be certain toll roads, certain roads where you can't have certain type of vehicles. All these complications you have to understand when managing logistics in the export market, because when you talk about the export market, it's not only handling the logistics within Sri Lanka, but also handling logistics outside the country. And if you see even within Sri Lanka, how much of exports actually happen maybe outside the free trade zones and outside the key cities, how much of manufacturing do we have outside all of this. So one of the reasons that we see lesser manufacturing facilities outside these free trade zones or the western province to a large extent is also because that the manufacturers see exports as an extremely complicated process. Then of course, today we face many customized requirements from buyers as well. It's not that you could just produce one type of a product and give it to all the customers all over the world. I mean, if you see even something like an iPhone or on Apple, right? They do have maybe different colors, different sizes. So today consumers are also used to that customization. It's not that simple that you could mass produce one single product and sell it all over the world. There will be different types of products the consumers want today, and then to cater to these different requirements, basically the complexities that in a logistics journey you have to be prepared or able to deliver, from container ships to absolutely do a delivery at a drone level. Because one of the biggest growing platforms today, and especially in this COVID-19 aftermarket, is the e-commerce platform. And that e-commerce platform is something the Sri Lankan exporters can actually thrive in, because you don't need large scale production. In the e-commerce market, you can even sell in single units, and all you need to manage is identifying the requirements of your buyer, and of course then adhering to it. So even in terms of managing the complexities, the main thing the exporters need to really understand is that these complexities can be managed, and that these are not complexities that should at any point really stop anyone from exporting. So moving on, most of you will be in the area of manufacturing, or really in terms of being exporters, or even the logistics providers. So in any business you do, one of the key areas for your business to be successful is to actually identify your strengths. Now, it can apply to any business, not only in logistics. So what you would have to do if you are a manufacturer is to understand what is your core competency, and to see whether you want to do only that core competency, or whether you would be able to, integrate some components of the logistic or supply chain into your key competencies as well. Today, you've got logistics integrators, as I said earlier, service providers who do everything from delivering in containers up to delivering on drones, or doing courier parcel delivery up to door. Logistics providers who will have terminals to containers, who will do air freight, customs clearance, regulatory clearance, supply chain services, providing even financial benefits, and also in terms of having trade finance schemes, and even giving that whole end-to-end visibility and operating on digital platforms. Then you will also have niche service providers who might be experts, maybe in warehousing, maybe in management of a yard, maybe in transportation, or maybe even in terms of giving that whole visibility, or running a platform as a digital service provider. And there will be some service providers who are better in a certain market. So there might be some service providers who are extremely strong in a Latin American market, some extremely strong in Europe, some extremely strong in the intra-Gulf region. So the key point for any exporter, be large, small, or a medium-sized entrepreneur, the key idea is actually to stick to your expertise. So if you're in the business of, say, making byproducts of coconuts, then concentrate on that. See how you could get maximum output of your coconut production, or that your specific manufacturing of your specific product. And then, of course, in terms of the whole logistics journey, there will always be the places where you might be able to add value. And there will also be the scenarios where you might want to give it on to someone else. And today you also have systems such as Uber and Pick.me, which do people transportation. There will be similar systems which do goods transportation as well. It's global trade has become so easy that anything can also be done at a click of a mouse or click of a button. So those are the areas that I always encourage all manufacturers, all exporters to really look at and identify where they'd be able to add value, and really to concentrate on the key strengths. Creating value. So how do we create value? Because in this global marketplace, it's no longer we are the we can always be the best in anything. There is constant competition. The key is basically in how do we differentiate. If we see one of the best things we are known globally is for Ceylon tea. Now, are we going to keep Ceylon tea as it is, or is it going to evolve? Today, we see a lot of our tea exporters going into value-added tea, going into flavored tea, which is extremely, a great initiative and the right way to move on, because more and more product differentiations, service differentiations are required. And when it's about creating value in a product or a service, today you've got so much of similar products. If you go to buy a phone, what will you look at? You will always look at the service offerings, or like the additional additional features on a phone. If you even go to buy furniture, what will you look at? You might look at comfort, you might look at durability, you might look at the design. So there are so much of things, or so much of aspects that you could differentiate, rather than always making a mass market product. Because we can always in Sri Lanka, we don't have to just copy and do what some other country is doing. We can always find our own niche. We can always create our own value. And how can we differentiate? How can we create this value? The key point is actually understanding the market requirement. If we can understand the market requirement, what is required in that particular market. Say you are going to export to New Zealand. Now, what would the people in that country need? What are the trends they are going after? We see this happening a lot in apparels, where the apparel manufacturers of Sri Lanka actually look at the trends that's happening globally, look at what their buyers are interested in. Even campaigns such as garments without guilt, that definitely creates value. So the key point here is that in whatever the product or service we are into, you need to really understand the market requirement. What is your target market? Are you making something for small children? Then what would they be interested in? Are you making something for women? Are you making something for middle-aged men? So what are the trends they are looking at? What are their interests? What are their aspirations? When you market that product, that's also something you need to look at. And in terms of the whole logistics, even in logistics it's the same. So I'm just taking more examples from the product because that might be something most of you relate to. But even in logistics, one of the key most important items is how does a logistics service provider differentiate? Because there will be so many providers providing the same service. So for a customer to select, how does a logistics provider differentiate? Do they provide visibility? Do they discount if a customer buys more than one service from them? Do they give an end-to-end product? Or do they concentrate themselves into one specific area? And also in terms of operating in a market, can you operate a business, a logistics business the same way you operate in Sri Lanka? Can it be operated the same way in India, or do you need that country's expertise? Sometimes there might be countries where the rules and regulations are not even published in English. You might need an expert in that local language. So it is extremely important that these type of market requirements are understood. One of the other key factors today, even that's important to logistics, is sustainability. I spoke earlier about the low sulfur vessels. Today, you see a lot of transporters moving on to hybrid or electric vehicles because the moving on to zero carbon emissions. This sustainability is something many companies are driving today. Many companies look at ethically sourced products. Companies are moving on to organic products. That's another area where Sri Lankan exporters can really do well in terms of organic farming. And that's something we can really add value to in the global market. And also, given the higher standards we maintain for labor, having the ethical products, getting these ethical certifications, getting sustainable certifications onto the products, onto the logistics service is also extremely important. And the last bit I would like to talk about in creating value is actually to create a need. Something I could say is at the turn of this century, right? And even for maybe most of us middle-aged people growing up, if we talk about Apple, it was just an apple. It was a fruit, right? But today, that is the biggest brand in the world. Now, if you go to a teenager or even a small child today, for them, Apple would be the phones. Apple would be about iPhones, Apple would be about iPads. So it's a totally different brand, and more than the Apple you eat, you might get the Apple logo even if you Google as Apple. So what did Apple really do? They created a need. At the turn of the century, none of us knew what an iPhone was. We didn't even have a requirement for it. We didn't have requirement for selfies. But that need has been created, and today there is a market who go after the camera phones, who go after the selfies, who go looking into these requirements because that need was created. We didn't know about social media at the turn of the century. There was nothing called a LinkedIn or a Facebook or even the platforms we are connecting today. But a need has been created, and that need is being satisfied. So it's the same in logistics. Sometimes there are, or even in your own products and services, the need will have to be created, and then of course you can go adding on value to it. One of the most important facts is, and I think as Sri Lankans, we tend to lag behind in this area most of the time, is seizing opportunities. one of the key aspects we need to do is diversification of our products and services. If you still look at, I think for a very long time, we are heavily dependent on, say, the apparels, tea, the rubber-based products, coconut-based products. It's time we actually look at different set of exports. I mean, while retaining the market value, also to grow the other products and services. Then, of course, looking beyond the traditional markets, even for the products which we are doing relatively well today, such as the apparels, such as tea, or even rubber-based products. If you look at the exports data of Sri Lanka in 2020 and even in 2019, 50% of Sri Lanka's exports had come from just 5 countries. So, and how many countries do we have globally? There's more than 190 countries, and 50% of everything that we export is today concentrated on 5 countries. Now it's time as a nation we look beyond this. As logistics providers, we provide services to all the other countries, because we do have global players in Sri Lanka who will be capable of delivering. We do have strong local players. So it's a matter of actually, kind of broadening our whole market space. And that's definitely all the logistics support. And I've seen an extremely good initiative that's done by the EDB also in terms of bringing in like a lot of new countries into the marketplace, creating discussions with high commissions, with embassies, creating that space, because today there's so much information on the internet. There is a global market platform on e-commerce, where even on Alibaba, even on Amazon, you could absolutely, sell your product. It's an amazing market space. There is so much potential for us to reach out actually as Sri Lanka. And then, of course, specifically onto the whole logistics side of it, we are geographically located in a great location with so much of connectivity out of Colombo. So for us to reach out to these markets also, it is not the most difficult. We do have connectivity both out of Colombo port and Colombo airport. And of course, the other part on these seizing opportunities is also looking at different storage solutions, be it cold chain, be it the food grade storage. That's, I think, one of the complications I've seen a lot of customers facing, or a lot of customers in other countries looking at, in terms of once they receive goods. Like, one of the biggest issues maybe you are facing, especially the SME sectors, where would they store until an order comes, or once it goes to the destination, how can they ensure the level qualities are maintained? So that's another key factor for the Sri Lankan logistics sector, to actually look out at these customized storage solutions. Then, of course, the main aspect of seizing opportunities or getting the opportunities is actually reaching out, actually being out there, putting yourself out, looking for that additional market, looking for those new markets, and not limiting yourselves to the traditional markets, because that's where you will have lesser competition also. Because now just imagine if 50% of our entire exports are concentrated on these 5 markets, how much competition is there? So there's more than 185 countries where we are hardly competing. So that's really something we need to look at in terms of diversifying our export market. Then the next point I want to really touch upon is embracing the pace. So in logistics, it's key that we are at the right time, at the right place. So when you take the logistics aspect of the exports market, there will be some products which require speed to market, which needs the agility, which might need air freight, which might need express delivery. And there might also be goods, especially if you're in a trading business, where you would want to keep for a longer period, or where you are looking at economies of scale. So you would also need the prolonged storage solutions, whether it's keeping your goods for a longer time or getting it out in the market. Uh, I mean, at a really faster pace. What you need to understand is you need to embrace the pace, whether to go fast or whether to play the waiting game. What you really need to understand is that you need to embrace the pace of that particular product, that particular service, and that is what would make your product or service actually successful, because it's important to be in the right time at the right place. Just imagine, take a basic example of a supermarket. Now, if you go to buy something, uh, and say you go to buy a food item, and that is not there, say a packet of biscuits, that packet of biscuits is not there. So when you go to buy it, if it's not there, there are several things you might do. You might just say, okay, I'll come back next time, or you might go to a different store to find that biscuit, or you might buy an alternate brand. And sometimes you might buy an alternate brand or alternate product and never buy the original biscuit you went to buy. So what statistics actually show is, if you're not in the marketplace in the right time and the right place, 26% of the time you will lose a customer for good. Therefore, it's extremely important that you are at the right place at the right time, and especially in terms of logistics, it's also key to give the right solution to the customer. So the last bit that I want to touch about is the evolving technologies. I think it's a matter of whether we want to join the bandwagon or be left behind. Just to bringing an analog of something as Sri Lankans we are very familiar of. I think one of the things we are very proud of still 25 years after is winning the World Cup in 1996. Now, winning that World Cup, I think we all recall there was this whole power hitting. Not that I'm an expert at cricket, but there was that whole power hitting that was done in the first 15 overs. Then, of course, that technique was sort of embraced by everyone else, and that was really the technology that evolved, and today you have different faster paces of the game. So the whole point is that we have to live with these evolving technologies. What would have been the technology or the SAP system you were using yesterday may not be the system you need today. And today, across be it tracking of your parcel or to a warehouse, we will need technology every step of the way. And of course, all these global buyers, they do want visibility of their supply chain. They are looking at paperless trade, and that is something today customs is also trying to get into. And I'm aware that EDB is also supporting with the whole paperless initiative, and the whole technologies, or using mobile apps, having information at a fingertip, going into digital banking, digital documentation, which many countries and many ports have adapted into. The whole ease of doing business, I think that's something where we lag at as a country. And that whole ease of doing business is something that is critical for logistics anywhere in the world. And of course, we need to move ahead with these evolving technologies. Then, of course, comes the whole, with logistics and with the export market, one of the things you cannot forget is the banking or the whole financial side of it, because there is a transaction involved. The whole ease of doing payments, doing the online transfers, ensuring security, because one of the biggest fears I understand people have, or a deterrent towards online transactions in Sri Lanka, is the security, the fear of cyber attacks. So the whole cyber security also needs to be kind of enabled by the relevant banks and the financial institutions. But what definitely is needed is to have that ease of payment, so that we can look at diversifying our export market. And that's something I think for all the exporters also, or the paperless trade technologies. and also having the secure payment systems will definitely ensure that the exporters will have a wider marketplace. So that's basically what I had to tell in terms of the logistics market in Sri Lanka, the exports logistics journey. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that may have come.
Okay, thank you very much, Randima, for that inspiring presentation. You have covered a lot of grounds, and I think it is very useful for our beginners, especially on understanding this logistic journey of export business. So I request our participants to send in their questions if you need any clarifications from our resource person, Ms. Randima. We have received several questions. Until others send their questions in, I would like to know something which came to my mind when you deliver your presentation. How is the e-commerce logistic works? I think you have not touched upon much on that. What is the importance of a logistic partner in e-commerce? So that, can you enlighten us on that matter as well?
So I think I didn't actually go into any detail or really mention the whole e-commerce platform. But in e-commerce, what we see today is, if you take Amazon, for example, I think Amazon's logistics spend is around 80 billion US dollars. That's their logistics spend, right? So that's the biggest, of course, one of the biggest e-commerce platforms in the world. Now, what does a logistics provider do? Actually, there is the warehousing that's involved in it. And especially if you take, again, going back to Amazon, some of their warehouses, the time you take to identify any item in Amazon warehouse is 7 seconds. And this is somewhere which has millions of products. So the key is speed in the e-commerce market from a logistics provider, having the storage, then of course the ability to do deconsolidation. Because it will come from different suppliers, and then there will be different parcels again. It has to go into as per the end buyer's requirements. So there is the ability to do both deconsolidation and consolidation and distribution at parcel level. So also the other part that is involved in it is, of course, the swift clearance. So ensuring the goods that come can pass through customs, that it is in compliance with the regulations of the operating country. So it will have to be a logistics provider who is aware of all the regulatory procedures in that country, and as well as the having the capability to do transportation, both in terms of the larger container size loads, truckloads, up to doing a doorstep delivery. And I think the other point is, of course, having the platforms in e-commerce. You need the whole visibility, because you need to track your order, right? So even if we order food today, we will be checking where the food delivery person is. So to give that visibility, that would also be key.
So one question has come referring to the managing complexity part. Isn't finding a reliable buyer also a complicated factor for Sri Lankan manufacturer? So you have any comments on finding a buyer? Maybe
I think that is in terms of, again, one of the challenges is because you have a buyer you don't know. Now it's not that you ever met this person. Anyone can set up a company online and put some details. How do you really verify if this business is legit, if this person will pay you? So there are few ways you could find a buyer. Of course, they can obtain support of organizations such as EDB, who will then be able to connect with the relevant High Commission or the embassy in that country who can verify if this buyer is, a proper authority or not. Then there will be all these chambers which support in trade facilitation, and there will also be logistics providers who today have with them a ready set of customers, because they've been working with these customers throughout the years. So all these methods can actually be obtained to really understand a buyer and identifying a buyer. And of course, in terms of the managing complexity, once you find the buyer, that logistics, if your core competency is manufacturing, then it's always advisable to hand it over to a logistics provider.
Right, thank you. And another question is there the main 5 markets, maybe during the presentation you have mentioned there are 5 markets where our all exports were gone. Can you?
Yeah, I think it's US, UK, India, Belgium was the, US, UK, India, Germany, and Italy. That's the 5 markets.
5 markets, okay.
Belgium is number 6, and I think number 7 is Netherlands.
Right. Then another question has come. Kindly elaborate about key concerns on packaging versus logistic versus cost for SMEs.
Right. So I think on packaging, the main requirement would be what the end buyer needs. Now, end buyer needs plus, if it's an export, the regulations of that country. So whether the packaging, it can look nice, it can look good because you need that presentation, but at the end of the day, it has to comply with the regulations of the country. So something you'll have to actually understand from a logistics, and this is where logistics providers should be able to help, given they do have global reach, to say these are the requirements of this country, because the logistics providers will also be doing the customs and the regulatory clearances, and then they can actually educate the manufacturers on saying, say for example, if you need to send something to Italy, this is how your label should read the price, this is how your label should have the date, and your ingredients of the product, say if it's a food product, this is what you can, how you have to label it. I'm sorry, there was the third part was you asked. There was packaging, logistics, and there was another part.
Packaging versus logistic versus cost.
Yeah, so I think there is obviously something called cost to serve. So what we need to understand is what percentage of a cost should be the logistics cost in that overall journey. Because if you are going to spend 50% of your product on logistics, that might not really serve the purpose. So when you understand, you have to initially itself, when you're exporting, look at the shipping costs, the regulatory or the clearance charges, and work out your product cost. Because also that will also make you realize what part of your product cost should go into the an upstream manufacturing process, what component should actually go into the packaging, because what is the eventual value you are giving to the customer. So it's really in striking a balance on that cost to serve.
Right. One other clarification I would like, there are some other questions also. Before that, maybe from your experience in 2 different organizations, can you give us something about the branding? What is the branding will give? You said we have to create value. So how you connect it to the branding?
So I think, see, if it's if you're entering a market, right? Many people purchase a product because they hear about the brand. So there is a certain element of advertising that needs to be done. Now, having said that, if we are to get a product like something, say that is produced in a far corner of Sri Lanka that needs to get listed in a carport, how do you do that? Because you might not have a brand that is known all over the world. Again, a well-known brand in Sri Lanka might not be known anywhere else in the world also. So in terms of branding, something that can be used a lot today is the social media, because that is global. That is not confined to the you know corners of Sri Lanka. It is global. So one of the important elements today to get the branding is being present on social media, getting your customer testimonials, and of course, at the end of the day, no matter what it is, your product has to live up to that expectation. So in terms of branding, actually in getting it, one of the key ways to promote today is through social media. Then of course, look at, I mean, if you are looking at branding, look at that specific market. What will they like? Because there will be some, I mean, there are so many campaigns around the world which have to be taken down because it has had offensive content to a certain market, right? We've seen products changing their brands completely with the times. So all these aspects, especially in today's world, with all the social media, you have to be mindful of the country you're exporting into. What are the requirements of those people? What are the likings of those people? And do the branding accordingly, and actually spend your, I mean, look at promoting it a lot through social media.
Right. So out of the questions we got from the participants, kindly elaborate about transport packaging requirements, performance, shipping and handling marks, etc.
Right. So I think again, why I didn't go into detailing this is because from country to country, it will be different. Because your requirements of how you can place it in a certain country, the end product, how they want it in a certain country or a market can be different. But overall, what you have to do in terms of packaging is to ensure, if you're packaging it for air freight, it will have to be packaged in a certain way. And if you're packaging it for ocean freight, and especially in shipping, you will have to have the label, and if it's fragile, to ensure that it says fragile, put the relevant coverings around. And if you are sending a temperature sensitive product, then it will have to have sometimes a thermal cover around it. So that is what you will need in terms of packaging in shipping, to ensure that, you know, you have to look at how many days is it going to be in transit, and ensure that your product quality doesn't get deteriorated during that transit time. So there are very often, I mean, companies which do work in this quality aspect, who will be able to support you with all of these matters.
Right. In at the beginning of your presentation, I remember you have mentioned that there are a lot of companies which are doing various type of logistics support for the exporters. How an upcoming exporter or a startup identify the correct logistic partner for them to deliver whatever the goods for his final destination. Is there a place where they can find this information about the company logistic partners and how they go about it? Can you advise how to select a suitable, most suitable logistic partner?
So I think honestly, you won't get that. I mean, of course, you can Google and check, but then that might not be the most accurate way, especially in Sri Lanka, because people would have updated their details. But what I also know is there are logistics companies that is registered with the Export Development Board. And I think one of the things we can do, especially to support the startups, is to maybe have sort of a logistics fair where all these capabilities and the countries these companies work in are showcased. And also one of the things is, of course, the company's websites will be updated, but I think it's actually more on to all of us in the logistics industry to actually create that awareness. Honestly, that's quite a good question. I don't think there is some site I can tell you when you go there you could find everything. So honestly, I think that is real feedback for us as well. But I think what I can say is under EDB, I am sure, like I'm aware you all do have a section. So actually you can connect with the EDB to get the details. They do have a section which has details of the logistics providers. But I think we can work on it in terms to give the countries the logistics providers are experts in, so that will actually be more supportive.
That would be useful, yes. Finally, there's one question I would like to get from here. No, we have covered that one, but somebody requested to get your presentation. Is it possible to share with the presentation?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I'll send it to the EDB, so I think you all can actually update it. Absolutely no issue. And if there's anything, I'll share my email ID as well. So if there's anyone who wants to connect, they can connect.
Yes. So with that, I think we have come to the end of our webinar today. I would like to thank all the participants for joining with us and getting the clarifications and having this to become a live presentation. And also I would like to say our special thanks to our resource person, Ms. Randima Krishnaratna, country sales manager of MERS Sri Lanka, for taking her time out of the busy schedule and join with us to educate our companies, especially the SMEs. Any company who wish to look at this webinar can do so using our Facebook page as well as YouTube channel. Maybe they can refer it at a leisure, and also as Ms. Randima mentioned, we can share this presentation with the interested companies. Randima, you have any final comments to be made?
No, actually, thank you very much for giving me this chance. I think the one request is just from all the SMEs, please look at exporting more. The country needs you now more than ever.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So with that, I end this presentation. Maybe we can meet from another important topic next week. Until such time, I wish you a pleasant day. Thank you.
Thank you.